So the other day I'm watching a video by Melinda Murphy, and she's talking about records that changed her life, which is a really engaging topic. I think anybody who's into music, if you're talking about records that changed your life, there are going to be some really important records, and there's going to be some interesting stories behind them. And I'm always interested, like what's somebody's first record they ever bought, or what did they think when they heard blank for the first time. Mazzy did a video as well, which I thought was great. Melinda, I think, did 20. He did 10. Or no, he did 12. He did a dozen. I'm doing 10. And initially I wasn't going to do this. And then it was just so simple for me to write down these records. They just all came to me. There wasn't too much debate because these all were very formative records. Sure, there's other ones in there. These are 10. These are 10 that came to mind for me. And it's hard to think right now of something that I would slide in there to take one of these out for sure. So for my 10th birthday, my grandparents gave me $10 in a card, and I went to the record store and I bought my first long playing LP record. I had had some 45s, some John Lennon songs, had Joan Jett, I Love Rock and Roll, I listened to over and over, and a few others. But this is the first record that I bought, the actual record, the long player. So it was kind of my introduction. My parents weren't that into music. There were some, collections and things I'd hear, but this was the first thing that I bought with my own money. Also didn't have any older siblings, which I think is important too. Sometimes when you talk about your discovery with music or music that changed your life, you're discovering it on your own, or, maybe you have some friends that steer you on your way a little bit. But a lot of these were things that I, discovered on my own, or at least when I got going. But the first one behind me, yes, is Journey Escape. I loved, I think it was Who's Crying Now was a big single at the time. Maybe Don't Stop Believing was too. But, it proved to me a couple things. I really liked a non-single off here. It proved to me that some songs, some of the best songs on records, are not the ones you hear on the radio. The album track that really appealed to me was Stone in Love. I just loved it. I think it's the second song on the record. It's very front loaded. You've got like Who's Crying Now, Don't Stop Believing, and Stone in Love at the very, very beginning. And then at the end, you've got Open Arms, which I always love too. I always love that song as well. It also taught me about filler, because there is just a ton of filler on this album, Journey Escape. Unlike some of these other albums that I'm going to mention that triggered like me becoming lifelong fans of the band and buying everything they put out, was not the case with Journey. By their album after this, Frontiers, I lost interest. It's just too soft rock for me. And even the albums that came before it, I mean, I know about, I could talk about some of them. I know the singles. I've listened to quite a few of them. I'm trying to get in this band, but yeah, they just don't really do it for me. I recognize that Steve Perry is a excellent singer, but yeah, I don't know. This was all the Journey I needed in my collection. Okay, next up, very, very transformational, very, 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 very high on my list if I was ranking these in order. These are in chronological order. These are my discovery as I'm progressing age-wise. So this came out when I was 11, I think. This is Van Halen, 1984. Oh my God. I wasn't aware of Van Halen. I had a Quiet Riot record. I had Shout the Devil, or at least had heard it. And had, I don't know, some Columbia House records, and I believe by this point. But when this album came out, I loved, and I had to hear it. I had to hear the record. I wanted the record so bad. My parents, especially my mom, was like, had a problem with the baby angel smoking cigarettes. You can see the smokes. I guess that was somehow sacrilegious because baby angels, of course, would smoke. I don't know. I don't remember. I remembered being disappointed, but kind of letting it go until I heard Panama on the radio, and I completely lost my shit. It was the most hard rocking thing I'd ever heard, and I had to have the record, and I did not shut up about it. And finally, she caved, or they caved, and I ended up buying this. And oh my God, it was the first band that I became obsessed with, and I had to have everything. And within a couple months, I think I did have all their records. But yeah, funny story too. When I got it home and played it on my parents' stereo, I think I was the only one home. So I was playing it and got through the first side and was really digging it. And it's instrumental, 1984, Jump, Panama, Top Jimmy, Drop Dead Legs. Of course I can recite all these tracks in order. Flipped it over and listened to the first song, and these are new songs for me. I'd never heard this song before. I heard Hot for Teachers, the first song on side 2. If you remember the drum beat from it, it's very distinct. It's very fast. It's like some people are like, is that their Lamborghini Eddie's sputtering, or is that like a drum beat? Well, I thought I broke my parents' stereo. I really thought I damaged the stereo and was sort of almost getting in panic mode. And then the drums gradually slow down and the rest of the instruments come in, and you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, that was my introduction to Hot for Teacher. But yeah, an album I became completely obsessed over, a band I became obsessed over. I was talking to my sister recently, telling her about this channel. She's like, have you done an episode on Van Halen yet? It's coming. I'll have to do it at some point because I sure know a lot about them. Okay, next up, this is another, obviously, record that kind of changed my life. This is Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band, Live 75-85. I'm 12 years old, or 11, 12, I think I was 12, when Born in the USA came out. When you're that age, I've talked about this before, there's all these solo artists or bands and artists have been around for a while, but you think they're brand new because they're not that old and they fit in with MTV and they've got a new album out. It was a case for me with like Peter Gabriel. I had no idea that he had a solo career before that. I had no idea he was in the band that Phil Collins was in at one point. And with Springsteen, I thought that Born in the USA was probably his only record. I didn't pay it too much mind, and I didn't like it. I had it after a while. I don't think I bought it right away. I just thought he was a big cheese ball. The way he dressed, Dancing in the Dark video, the songs were everywhere. You cannot avoid them. Glory Days I thought was kind of cheesy, bombastic, like Born in the USA. And you got he's looks like Rambo, and Rambo was popular then. So it was just weird. I don't know. I didn't get it, but I was intrigued by him enough to want to hear more. And I had dubbed Born to Run once I found out he had other records out. It sounded old and dated to me. It took me a while to get into that, but I was very, very curious when this album came out, and it was Christmas time, 1986. My parents gave it to me, and you would think I fell in love with the E Street Band. Oh yeah, that's what a rock and roll band should be. Not really. I tend to I kind of prefer Nebraska-esque Springsteen, but what this record really taught me more than anything was the storytelling part of Springsteen, the long monologues, the lyrics, even the first song, Thunder Road. Just there's an immediacy in that song and it opens up so much more, I think, than the produced version you hear on Born to Run. I've always preferred it, but yeah, just open up a world of storytelling type songs, and obviously it led me down that road. That's kind of my favorite thing. I still look for and like in music. Next up, quite a different record is R.E.M. Documents. Had Murmur on cassette. I've talked about this band a lot because they're one of my favorites, if not my favorite band. Like Van Halen, became completely obsessed with this band, and still am. And this was my intro to a full-length record. Well, I had Murmur, but I don't know, like I said, I didn't really get it at the time. But this was new at the time. I bought it on the strength of hearing the one I love, and also hearing Fall on Me on the radio quite a bit. I bought this on Life's Search Pageant on the same day. This was a new album though, so I listened to it a little bit more. It got me into politics in music, sort of mysterious element that I couldn't put my finger on. Rock and roll in a different way, a non-mainstream way that was super, super intriguing. And kind of like the punk bands, kind of made it seem like something you and your friends could maybe do. But yeah, I absolutely love this record. And yeah, it introduced the whole world of R.E.M. to me. So yeah, great band. Next up, completely different really, but Appetite for Destruction. This came out when I was 15, I think. 15 going on 16. And man, they talk about Nevermind being the death blow to hair metal. I think this kind of was. Those hair metal bands are on their fourth-ish record by this point. Maybe the first one came out in 84, and by 88, it's you're really starting to see through these bands. There's just not a whole lot of there's not much substance there. It's overproduced. The songs are really weak, like really bad, except for maybe one song on a record or two songs on a record. And then this comes out, and it's like Sticky Fingers and Let It Bleed and Beggar's Banquet all rolled into one, like with the best songs and introducing, an element of like Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks, kind of a punk thing too. Axl Rose sounds like he's a couple different people. Like, I can get so high and so low. Is that the same guy? The lyrics were so much fun, so interesting. I mean, yeah, like dark and Hollywood life, but not like this glam, like, I don't know, Motley Crue or some of these bands. It's just like, oh, going to the strip club, and it's just all like one big party. This was like the dark underbelly of all of that, dealing with some really serious subjects, but just cranking it up and making like an old school rock record. And yeah, I love the shit out of this record. I played this record so much the type wore right off that clear tape I had. And yeah, corresponds a lot with with me getting I had my license for a while, but me driving more and more at night by myself and hanging out with friends and just playing this record constantly, the cassette anyway. So that's, Appetite for Destruction. Next up, Sinead O'Connor, The Lion and the Cobra. Now, I don't remember hearing a single song by Sinead. I know I hadn't when I picked up this record. I might have seen her name around, like just flipping through magazines. I don't remember reading an article on her or about her, but I remember like just kind of being loosely familiar with some bald-headed woman named Sinead O'Connor. I just moved to Wisconsin. Our family moved from Kansas City to a pretty small town in Wisconsin, and was kind of trying to find my footing. And was at a record store, a pretty cool one actually, that existed for a while there, and bought Sinead O'Connor. I hadn't heard a note, like I said, bought it on tape, and it just blew me away. I don't think I'd ever heard such beauty and emotion and passion and fire and energy from a record, period, at that point. This must be what Patti Smith Horses was for people that are older. It blew me away. I still think it's one of the best records ever made. I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. Don't play it too often. When I do, though, it's an event, and I really get into it. And I'm forever sad that she's no longer with us. But yeah, Lion and the Cobra, Sinead O'Connor. Next up, The Replacements, All Shook Down. Now, I had heard, my introduction was Please to Meet Me. I'd heard that a few years before this. I had Don't Tell a Soul, but I couldn't really get into it besides A Can Be and I'll Be You, which I really liked. This one came out when I was in college, freshman year, and I was really intrigued by it. I think I'd only heard Merry Go Round maybe. And I picked it up, and holy crap. I think this is really what introduced me, maybe along with Springsteen, to kind of the singer-songwriter. Serious songs, kind of depressing songs, telling stories, sad, but so real, so real. And it just something that I just needed at that time, and opened up a whole world of other Replacements records, and then other bands that kind of sounded like them. Very soon after I got this, I borrowed Tim, Let It Be, and Stink, all from a guy I knew who lived, I think, down the hall or in one of the dorms near me in college, and taped them all to either a 90 or 100-minute XL2 Maxell tape. Played that to death and could not believe how good this band was. But really, a lot of it all comes back to this album for me. Please to Meet Me sounded really good to me, but I didn't dive into it. Don't Tell Soul was too slick. This hit all the right notes at the time. Next up, Being There. This is after Kurt Cobain died. This is when some bands were starting to maybe not speak to me as much as they used to. It just seemed like there's kind of an absence happening in music. And then this band comes along. A friend gave me this promo. It's such a time and place record for me. It's winter of 1996 and 97, 96 going into 97. And played this record so much. It has such a warmth to it. It's like being like wrapped up in this coziest blanket, and I remember just the organic feeling of it, and listening to it with my roommate at the time, drinking coffee on the weekends and then in the morning, and then switching over to beer, and just I don't know, no need for anything else other than like this record, and being fortunate enough to see them with Jay Bennett on this tour at least twice, and just having that same kind of energy carry over to the show. I mean, the first show I saw ever of Wilco, well, no, I saw them open up for Pavement. It was different though. I wasn't that big of a fan at the time. But when this record came out and I saw them on this tour as a headliner, Tweety came out in his pajamas, and it was kind of like how I'd been listening to the music. So it was perfect. But yeah, being there, and of course, I still love this band, and I'm very grateful that they're still around making music. You know, I may bitch like other people about this record is not as good as the other one, or all these songs start to sound the same. But man, I'm glad he's out there. They're out there making music. Just wish Jay Bennett was still with them. All right, next one. OK Computer. Man, oh my God, was this a game changer for me? I had heard Creep on the radio and didn't care about it at all. Didn't register. I mean, I thought it sounded okay, but I certainly didn't go out and buy the record. The Bends, I had subscribed to CMJ Music Journal and had heard some of the singles off that, including My Iron Lung. Don't remember. I don't think I bought it. My roommate had it, and I listened to it, and I made a tape of it, and I remember playing that a lot at a job I had and getting into it quite a bit. And then this album came out, and it changed everything. I was like, what is this? It was like this super interesting, like, code to crack. What is this? What is it about this record? Very dense with lyrics, lyrically so rich. I think it's Head and Shoulders the best Radiohead record. Kid A's very Kid A doesn't have the lyrics like this one does. It's very I don't need to get into comparing the two. I like that record too, but this record is so much like singing about the future in dystopian times, and without going into that. And at least this video, yikes. I love this record. Love everything about it. OK Computer, Radiohead. And another thing too, I think I've only got one record left. Just want to say that all these records they're all current records when I was listening. They were new at the time. Of course, I get into older stuff later, but I find it interesting. I know that Mazzy's was this way. It was like records that were current coming out during his life, and this is very much the same way. Another thing, I think when you're between the ages of, in my case, 11 to 26, I think this next record I'm going to show came out when I was 26. Like you get into music and in a way that you kind of can't later on, or I can't anyway. I don't think most people can, to the same kind of level where it feels like your identity, where it feels like this just unbelievable like milestone in your life. And this next record, I remember this record did it for me, and being surprised because I was like 25 and didn't think that could happen anymore. And then this next record did it, and it's a little hard pressed to think of a record that did it since, although I'm going to think about that a little harder after this video gets wrapped up. But anyway, yeah, the next record that did it, read an article about this record in City Pages, Minneapolis Weekly. Having not heard a note on it, went to the record store, asked for it, Electric Fetus. They didn't know what I was talking about. I think it just came out, picked it up. They found it for me, picked it up, brought it home, played it. I think within the first minute, I was completely hooked. I hadn't heard anything like it before. His voice, the way he draws you in to the storytelling and doesn't let up. I mean, just totally captivated. Like, stop what you're doing and listen to this thing. And I became quite obsessed with it. Talked to numerous people about it, introduced tons of people to it. Was lucky enough to see them on tour on this record shortly after it came out. Excellent show, almost terrifyingly intense with him vocally. He was giving everything he had in a way that I don't think I'd ever seen at that point from a live performer. But we met him after the show, and everybody's coming up to him, more than one person. I mean, I'm talking at least 3 or 4 that I heard, and telling him that they made the best, he made the best record that they had ever heard in their entire life. I felt the same way at the time. That's how good this record was. That's how powerful this record was. And that's what freaked the shit out of him and stopped him from ever making a record again, unfortunately. But yeah, this record's truly, truly special, in the Airplane Over the Sea. So that's my list. There's 10 albums, very, very crucial albums that did change my life. love to hear yours. Leave yours in the comments below. If you do a channel, yeah, please pick up on this. I'd love to hear them. I think it's always interesting to hear people's stories of the records that really got them into music to the point that they're watching videos like this or doing their own, or all these years later they're still talking about it. Thanks.